We got one big thing on the log. This started off probably around 7:30 p.m., maybe a little bit before that, kind of in the area of the Empire Mall. The short version is we had some people in one vehicle that were shooting a gun at another vehicle and chasing them around. So the initial, I guess, where this whole thing began, the two groups of people there, we had a 18-year-old girl and a 19-year-old guy that were in one car, and then we had, there were four people in the second car. The car that had the four people in it, that's where the suspects were. I don't really have an explanation on why it started, but they kind of passed each other. Maybe there was some looks that were given. The victims said that there was nothing really that had been said, but then the victims started following them, and the suspects started following the victims. They noticed this, and at one point, either one suspect or a couple of suspects flashed a gun at the victims. The victims started to leave out of that area. The suspects followed them. It was around that time that we had the first call, and it was one of the victims had called a relative, and that relative called police. So there was a little bit of kind of a delay of what was going on. As officers were initially going to that area by the Empire Mall, there was another call came in about gunshots. That was in the area of 14th Street and Regal Place. And it was same two people or same two vehicles were involved. They ended up in that area. We had several witnesses that saw this take place. There were two guys that were hanging out of the car firing guns at the victim's car while they were driving. In that trailer car or trailer park, we had a couple of vehicles that were shot. One of them was both of them were parked. One of the vehicles had the owner inside of it. The other vehicle, there was a 3-year-old that had been playing outside very near that car when it was struck. Thankfully, there was no injuries from anything. So as this thing was kind of unfolding, the officers were coming to that area. There was some separation between the victims and the suspect. We had officers that were driving an unmarked vehicle that saw the suspect vehicle that was in the area of the 4900 block of West Equestrian. When they tried to stop it, the vehicle, there was a passenger that got out, took off running. The vehicle then rammed the unmarked police car, and then there was some disabling damage, so they weren't able to chase it. Then the suspect vehicle took off. So the guy that ran, he was caught by one officer, and then we had some other officers that came into that area with marked police cars, and they saw that vehicle near 12th Street in Marion, and then ultimately it was stopped. There was one person that was arrested out of that vehicle. We believe there was two other people that were in the car, and those two have not been found, so we're still working on that. Inside the car, there was one handgun that was found, some controlled substance, basically some concentrated THC, some other marijuana was found as well. That handgun had the serial number had been altered or scratched off. So the two guys that were arrested, a lot of the charges are the same, but I'll start with the passenger. And there it is. His last name is Jackson, Jackson. First is Quinton, Quintin. Middle is Latrell, Latrelle. He's 18 from Sioux Falls. And his charges in no particular order. He had possession of a firearm with an altered serial number, fleeing police, possession of controlled substance, paraphernalia, possession with intent to distribute marijuana, distribution of a controlled drug, possession of marijuana, misdemeanor amount, and then resisting arrest. Do you want me to go over those again? Got them? Okay. And The driver of the car, his last name is Ramos, R-A-M-O-S. First is Aaron, A-A-R-O-N. Middle is Joseph, J-O-S-E-P-H. And he's 21 from Sioux Falls. His charges, possession of a firearm with an altered serial number, aggravated assault on law enforcement, that comes from ramming his vehicle into the officer's vehicle, DWI first, driving while suspended, possession of a controlled substance, possession of paraphernalia, distribution of a controlled drug, possession of marijuana, and felony intentional damage to property. The victim's vehicle, I didn't mention that before, they ended up, they left that area, went to a different area, and then called police, so officers were able to talk to them, and they did find a bullet hole that was in the car, but like I said, there was no injuries. What else did I miss?
Any ideas if the firearm was stolen?
Well, we'll have to do, I guess, some recovery to try to determine that. But without knowing what that serial number is, we're not able to tell at this point if the gun was stolen or not. So that's, I think that'll have to. I don't know if that'll be done at our crime lab here or be sent to the state lab. But at some point, there's a lot of things that they can do to recover firearm serial numbers when they've been altered like that, so they'll use some different techniques.
Do you know any affiliation that they have? Are they friends?
No, there's no connection between the victims and suspects.
How old is Jackson?
He is 18.
And that unmarked
What's-
police vehicle?
What's that?
And that unmarked police vehicle?
Yep.
Was it around just by mistake, just happened to be around, or?
No, we had detectives that were looking for that vehicle. And so that was, actually, there was, I think, a couple of them that were in it. When Jackson ran, the passenger ran, we had a detective that left that unmarked vehicle and chased him down. And then the suspect, the driver, Ramos, ended up ramming that unmarked police car. So that's why they were there. And that vehicle, it doesn't have any police markings on it, but it does have all the lights and siren, all the emergency equipment. So they had activated that, so these two knew that it was police that were behind them.
Was the officer that was still in the vehicle injured?
No, he was not injured.
Do you know if the two suspects that are in custody, were they the shooters?
That I guess I don't know. We don't have any aggravated assault charges related to firing that gun, so I don't know if we know that at this point. Certainly there's a potential they could be, but with 4 people in the car and witnesses saying 2 people were firing guns, I don't know that we know at this point exactly who was firing the gun.
Any estimate on the monetary amount of damage to the unmarked police?
The police car, I didn't see anything, it just said it was disabling damage, but that could be any number of things. I didn't see any damage amount that was listed anywhere.
And are the police now looking for those 2 people?
Well, we're still looking for them. I don't know the parts that I didn't get through all the reports related to this, but the ones I saw, I don't know if they had identified those 2, so we're still working to try to identify them. Anything else on that one? Okay, the other aggravated assaults, not much there. One of them was, so this incident had 2 different aggravated assault reports, but they're all lumped together. Another one, we had a guy that had a stab wound to his leg. He wasn't really cooperative, wouldn't say what happened. He kind of said that it was an accident, that he somehow stabbed himself while the knife was in his pocket, but anyway, no arrests were made. Another one was a late report. A guy said he had been hit by a baseball bat, like he thought maybe a couple of weeks ago. Didn't really have any explanation why he hadn't reported it before. No serious injuries from that, no arrests were made. The burglary was an apartment that was entered. The disorderlies, most of those are trespassing. Did have a couple of obstruction cases, another domestic in there as well. Family offenses are protection orders, the frauds, ID thefts, and checks. Larcenies, some shoplifting, storage unit. Did have one catalytic converter taken, cars that were entered, a camper that was entered. Nothing real big from those. The robbery, I really don't have details. A guy said he was pushed and somebody took his shoes, but I don't have anything other than that. The sex offenses, a couple of sex offenders didn't change their address, and just another report on that one, or on the third one. Vandalisms, we had a car that was damaged, business window was broken, and then a house door was damaged. And then the weapons violation, that was created in error, so I don't have anything with that.